What's going on, guys? So, if you've been coming to my channel, and you probably know that I have a series that looks at the grand jury. And actually, it's not a series. I misspoke a little bit there. So, in a couple of R. Kelly videos, I talk about the grand jury. And then I decided to have a standalone video that focuses solely on the grand jury. And the reason I did that is because I just kind of wanted to have a video on its own that had a basic general conversation about grand jury and about the secrecy behind the grand jury. And it's lo and behold, at the same time, we have this Breonna Taylor drama kind of brewing in the background, and it comes out that the tapes or the recordings for that grand jury is actually released. So I actually wanted to make a video so I can give my thoughts on the grand jury as it applies to Breonna's or Breonna Taylor situation. And what I've done is that I've taken a couple of videos and I've kind of put them together. And we're just going to go ahead and play those videos. And then I'll come back at the end of that with my commentary.
The family, supporters of Breonna Taylor, still doubling down on their calls for justice. Where are we today?
Yeah, Eamon, a lot of fast-moving legal developments overnight. As you mentioned, that unnamed grand juror filing that motion late yesterday, asking to be allowed to speak publicly about this case. It's really an exceedingly rare request, and we're still awaiting a judge's ruling on that. But yes, as you mentioned, that news conference still underway here in Louisville. Let's take a listen to what the attorney for that anonymous grand juror had to say just moments ago.
My client wants to make sure that anything that happened in there becomes something of public knowledge to the extent it's legally allowed to.
So yes, Eamon, to explain how this all went down late yesterday, the attorney for that grand juror, who you just saw right there, filed a motion asking for the grand jury recordings to be released and for that grand juror to be allowed to speak publicly. Just a short time after that, within hours, the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, here in Kentucky, released a statement saying several things. One, he said that despite his objections, he would abide by a separate judge's order to release those grand jury recordings by tomorrow. So we are expecting those recordings to be released by tomorrow. The open question right now is, will the judge allow that grand juror to speak? We don't have a timetable on when that may happen. We were hoping to get some new details from the lawyer right there. He still says he cannot identify his client, but that his client wants the truth to prevail, as you mentioned, Eamon.
Hey, Gabe, really quickly, why do they want those recordings released?
Well, the grand juror, the attorney for the grand juror says that because the Attorney General late yesterday in his statement said that he only recommended the charges of wanton endangerment. That is different than what he said last week. He dodged the question last week when he asked specifically what he had recommended. The grand juror's attorney today was vague about exactly that, only to say that he wanted the truth to get out there. But the family of Breonna Taylor believes that it's because other charges, more serious charges, may not have been presented in this case, and that's what they want to find out, Eamon.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez live for us there in Louisville. Gabe, thank you as always.
As the grand jurors listened to the evidence in the Breonna Taylor case, at one point at least, they wanted to hear more.
We don't show all the videos, but just because of time. And we get
15 hours of audio recordings that Breonna Taylor's family hoped would shed new light on the botched drug raid at her apartment in March that left the 26-year-old emergency room technician dead. The tapes revealing it was a chaotic and confusing scene.
Was there a formal plan between the 7 officers as they made approach to serving the warrant?
I'm not aware of one.
During the hearing, officers can be heard numerous times discussing one of the most important issues in the case, insisting they announced they were police before breaking down Taylor's door.
I would say 1 or 2 minutes of me knocking on the door saying police, and I could hear somebody inside kept talking. I could hear her.
Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, also in the apartment, claims police never identified themselves, and he fired a gun he was licensed to carry because the couple was afraid of an unknown intruder. Taylor was killed when police returned fire, what prosecutors have said was justified self-defense. I'm confident that once the public listens to the recordings, they will see that our team presented a thorough case, Kentucky's Attorney General said in a statement, while Taylor's family's lawyer saying the jurors were stonewalled every step of the way by a prosecution team that had a predetermined outcome and a disingenuous agenda.
Does this change anything?
Not for the family of Breonna Taylor. Our family is not satisfied, and the recordings can't tell it all.
One of the grand jurors has asked to speak publicly about the case. The judge may grant that permission. The Taylor family has requested a special independent prosecutor to present new evidence to a new grand jury. And next week, we're expecting to hear the results of an internal Louisville Police Department investigation. More documents, more videos, and more controversy. Kristen, Peter?
Indeed. All right. Ron Allen, thank you.
So you've heard these recordings. One of the things I didn't add in this is that I actually heard and saw a video clip of an officer saying that I didn't actually see the officer in the clip. I just heard an audio clip of one of the officers saying that he turned his body cam off by accident, or he didn't start the body cam or something of that nature. And to me, that just seems a little bizarre because you have three people that's going in to serve this warrant, and you're going to bust this woman's door down, and you don't turn on your video camera. Really, you really want us to believe that? Honestly, I think there's something fishy going on there because you have three officers and none of them have a body cam. Then there's this situation where the grand juror is coming out and he's actually wanting to speak to the grand jury proceedings. And if you've watched my videos about the grand jury, you know that was some injustice that happened in that entire proceeding, that he's going out and he's hired a lawyer. He's going out and he's basically pursued this thing to try to break the veil of silence. And it's actually kind of funny because if you remember from the grand jury video that I've done, if you haven't seen it, you need to go and watch it. It's kind of funny because he's sworn to secrecy, and he's not one of the individuals that are allowed to basically break that secrecy. I think for the most part, the only people who can break the veil of secrecy is the actual lawyers for the government, or the prosecutors in this case. So it's kind of funny. But one thing I probably should lay out is that I'm speaking on behalf of the federal grand jury rules, but this is actually a state grand jury. I believe it is. So the process is probably going to be a little different. But at any rate, he's seen something that's so unjust, that's so crazy, that he wants to come out and he wants to speak. So this brings me to question whether or not we should still allow grand juries. Yes, it's in the Constitution, but getting rid of the grand jury wouldn't necessarily hurt any particular individual. I think if anything, it would hurt prosecutions, which we probably don't want to do. We don't want to let criminals get away with murder. But on the same token, we don't want people to or prosecutors to present weak cases. And I think the secrecy part of the grand jury, or maybe not get rid of the grand jury, but just kind of get rid of the secrecy part. The grand juries are supposed to protect the jurors, right? It's supposed to protect the jurors from the potential alleged criminal. And now in this case, I don't know if the grand jury is protecting anybody. I think in this case, the juror doesn't want that protection because he believes there's some type of corruption going on here. So, leave your thoughts below. Leave your questions, comments below, and let me know what you think about the grand jury. Let me know what you think about the secrecy behind a grand jury. And let me know if you think we need to just abolish the secrecy component of the grand jury. So this whole thing is just crazy to me. But to me, my overall feeling, my overall sense of this thing, with what little information I have, my overall sense is that prosecutor, he undercharged the case, and then when he went into the grand jury, he under pursued the case. I just kind of believe that there is an agenda here, and that agenda is to make sure that these cops don't go to jail for the killing of Breonna Taylor, which in my opinion is actually a murder. So that's it for this video. Leave your questions and comments below, and please like, share, and subscribe.